Hello everyone, today I will be talking about console redesigns. Every console needs one because there are bound to be some screw-ups the first time around. With redesigns, they fix the console, or sometimes makes it worse. I will be going over Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox console redesigns. First, the NES top loader. The original NES is one of the most iconic looking consoles of all time, but it had a lot of hardware failures. If you still own an NES, it either does not work or at some point it stopped working. When the SNES came out, Nintendo made a budget version of the NES. This redesign is a top loader, just like the SNES. I think the NES top loader is better than the OG NES because it's smaller, there are not as many hardware fails as the OG NES. But it did have one flaw. Instead of an AV port like the OG NES, there is an RF port. With the RF port, the picture is a little more blur and a little shaky. You could mod it for AV out, but to do that, you are going to need to have some modding skills or a lot of money. But back when the console first came out, some people called Nintendo complaining about the RF port. Nintendo offered to officially mod their console to AV out. Next is the redesign for the SNES, the new style SNES. This redesign is kind of useless. It's fine, but there is no real reason to use this compared to the OG SNES. But unlike the NES top loader, this thing has an AV port, but that's really it. The design itself is a downgrade in my opinion, and its function is worse than the OG SNES. Next, the PS1. The redesign for the OG PlayStation is called the PS1. The function for both are the same, but the redesign is smaller. I think the PS1 looks better than the OG PlayStation. Next is the PS2. This is how you do a redesign. It's smaller, it looks better, it works better. Everything about the PS2 Slim is better than the OG PS2. Next, it's the PS3. The PS3 had 3 versions: the OG PS3, the PS3 Slim, and the PS3 Super Slim. I think the PS3 Super Slim is unnecessary. The PS3 Slim was needed because the OG PS3 was $600 because of the useless junk on it. The PS3 Slim took off all the useless junk and made the console $300. It was way smaller than the OG PS3, but they took out the PS2 backwards compatibility with the Slim, but PS1 games still work on the system. Now the PS3 Super Slim, this design was pretty pointless. This is the PS3 I had growing up, and the other PS3s didn't have this kind of disc tray. Next, the Xbox 360. The OG Xbox 360 was not the best console. It had so many hardware failures, and not to mention the red ring of death. If you don't know what the red ring of death is, basically with the OG Xbox, when you turn it on, and there is a red ring around the power button, it means your Xbox is broken. But the Xbox 360S, that's a good redesign. They fixed all the hardware failures, including the red ring of death. But then they made the Xbox 360E. This console looks like the Xbox One. This redesign is pretty pointless since the Xbox One was coming out in the next 5 months at the time. Next, the Wii. The Wii is an amazing console. It was built for what it was supposed to do. But for the redesign, they took out GameCube backwards compatibility, the stand, and it's supposed to be on its side. That was pointless, but this is straight up unnecessary. The Wii Mini, it's a Wii but worse. There is no Wi-Fi, no backwards compatibility with GameCube. There wasn't even an SD card slot. It was only $100. It was also only released in Canada. It did come with a copy of Mario Kart Wii, so that's cool. But the main reason I think this redesign is pointless is because the Wii U came out a month before the Wii Mini. Next, the Xbox One. With the redesigns for the Xbox One, it just kept getting better and better. The first Xbox One was not even that bad to begin with. Then they made the Xbox One S. It's smaller and it looks way better than the OG Xbox One. It also supports 4K. Then they also made the Xbox One X. And this is my favorite Xbox One. I love how it looks. Next is the PS4. The PS4, the OG one, had a nice design. However, it was so loud. They made the PS4 Slim. It's not as loud, but it's still pretty loud. It just doesn't look as good as the OG. They made the 2 layers way smaller with rounded edges. It just doesn't look better than the original PS4. Then we have the PS4 Pro. The PS4 Pro looks weird. it better function-wise, but sucks look-wise. Why are there 3 layers? Next, the PS5. The first one was all right, but it was pretty huge. Then they made the PS5 Slim. It's really just a smaller version of the PS5. This is the one I own. Then they made the PS5 Pro. Why are there these random lines on the console? I mean, they made the hardware better, but not $700 better. Now, are the handhelds? The Game Boy had a few redesigns. It got smaller with the Game Boy Pocket and colorful with the Game Boy Color. Then there is GBA, which is just a squeal to the Game Boy. The main reason the GBA is better than the OG Game Boy is because you can now accurately see the game you are playing. Then there is the GBA SP, which is a redesign for the GBA. It is the best Game Boy out there. There are more buttons, the clamshell design, the backlight, and a rechargeable battery. Then the Game Boy Micro. It could only play Game Boy Advance games. No Game Boy or Game Boy Color. Next, the PSP. There was the 1000, which was the first, 2000, which was the second, and the 3000, which was the third. Then they messed up with the PSP Go. There's the PSP Go. It's an all-digital PSP. It also has this. The PSP Go is a mix of the PSP and smartphones. Unless you already had most of your games download digitally, you couldn't play your physical games. There was no point in this redesign. The PSP is awesome, and the PSP Go fixed that. I guess it called PSP Go because it's smaller so you can put in your pockets or something like that. The PSP Go had 16 gigabytes, and you could also buy a memory card, but a memory card is so expensive. And PSP Go wasn't really cheap either, so there was really no point of getting the PSP Go. It's not even like Sony discontinued the original PSP. You could still get it for cheaper. Also, some games aren't available on the PlayStation Store. The PSP can play everything. This redesign sucked, that's why they stopped making them 2 years later. Next, the PS Vita. The Vita only got one redesign, and all they really did was make it smaller. Next is the Nintendo DS. I don't really like the design of the OG. I don't know why I just don't think it looks good. Then they made the DS Lite. This is when the DS really took off. The design for this console is so cool. The Lite was so much better than the OG. Then they made the DSi. The DSi was a better DS with 2 cameras, but they did get rid of the GBA slot. Next, the 3DS. The OG 3DS was all right, but that's all you can really say about it. Then they made the 3DS XL. It fixed the problems that the OG 3DS had, and they made it bigger. Then they made the 2DS. It's a budget version of the 3DS, with the 3D and the clamshell design. The new 3DS and the new 3DS XL were all hardware revisions. Both systems got better hardware. Next, the new 2DS XL is just flat out weird. The camera in the middle looks weird, and the top screen looks like a phone. This is not my favorite redesign. I would much rather take the OG 2DS than this. Lastly, the Nintendo Switch Lite. I'm not a huge fan of this one. I think it is more comfortable to hold. But why? The console is called Switch, so you can switch between the TV and handheld mode. With the Switch Lite, you can't switch. If you never see yourself using your Switch on your TV, then this is a better option. But it's not for me. That's it. Those are all the console redesigns. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.